As President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to leave office on the 29th of May, we begin to assess and reappraise the last 8 years of performance. And the politics of the leadership of the 10th National Assembly heats up. The horse trading and intense politicking continue. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbale. Happy Easter to you. It's Easter Monday, and we continue for all Nigerians who are basking in our celebration. Wish you the best of the holiday. Let's check out some of your political roundup stories. Now, when we come back from that, we will be appraising the 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari. It's just about 50 days for that government to exit power. And what have they done? What should Nigerians be expecting? What are the legacies, the milestones? We'll be dissecting that from the insider point of view tonight. Plus, we're looking at the politics of the National Assembly. A lot is happening. We'll give you the latest tonight. But first, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Hello everyone, I'm Victoria Longjan, and here are your political roundup stories for today. The candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the March 18, 2023 governorship election in Delta State, Mr. Kenneth Gbagi, is asking the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal to declare him as the winner of the election. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Gbagi says he has found a petition before the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal on the grounds that the governor-elect of Delta State and other 4 candidates who contested the election were not qualified to contest the election.
I have filed 3 grants of petition. Number 1, that all the candidates in the election are not qualified to run election in the first place.
16 House of Assembly candidates of the People's Democratic Party in Ogun State who lost to the All Progressives Congress have submitted their respective petitions to the Election Petition Tribunal in Abeokuta, the state capital. The grounds of the PDP Assembly candidates include non-compliance in the conduct and unlawful votes obtained by the All Progressive Congress candidates who were returned as elected members of the Ogun State House of Assembly for the respective state constituencies in the March 18 general elections. Ahead of the governorship primary election in Kogi State, Kogi West women and youth have asked the National Working Committee and other critical stakeholders of the People's Democratic Party to give the ticket of the party to Dino Melaye. Leaders of the group who spoke at a rally in Lokoja, the state capital, say their request is born out of a desire to see their state removed from the present economic doldrum created by the present administration. The All Progressives Congress in Taraba State has dismissed an allegation of expulsion and anti-party activities during the general elections against the senator-elect for Taraba South, David Jimkuta. At a press conference in Jalingo, the state capital, the Takum local government secretary of the party, Bola Sabo, described the suspension and subsequent expulsion of the senator-elect by a faction of the party as an act of mischief and a nullity. This follows a press statement issued by one Sirajo Salau, who is also claiming to be the chairman of the party in the council. According to him, discussions is in top gear with the aggrieved members of the party in Taraba South to unite and reconcile them. A coalition of youth in River State under the aegis of Niger Delta Peace and Development Advocates are asking the All Progressives Congress APC to zone the position of the Senate presidency of the 10th Senate to the southeast. Speaking at a press conference in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, leader of the group, Mr. Kelvin Eto, notes that doing this will equal to equity, fairness and togetherness. Now those are your political roundup stories. It's back to you now, Sheil.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for those stories. And now, everyone, you are up to speed on this Easter Monday of some of the political stories that we have reporting for you. Let's begin our very first conversation, everyone. It looks like yesterday, isn't it? In about 50 days from today, President Muhammadu Buhari will be wrapping up. In fact, he will be exiting, not wrapping up, By now, he's wrapping up and preparing to exit himself and his members of cabinet and members of his team on a second term, which will be made an 8-year journey in office. There has been a lot of debate on the promises made by the president during his campaign and his overall performance in office. Tonight, my guest is the media advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari, Mr. Femi Adesina. He will be shedding light on the administration's accomplishments and challenges. We will be discussing the progress made in key areas such as the economy, security, infrastructure, and corruption, as well as the challenges faced and the lessons learned. Thank you so much, Mr. Adesina. It's good to see you, and a happy Easter to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
I'd like to ask, is President Buhari already preparing to exit? Is he preparing his final exit notes?
Oh, yes, I'm sure you know that he has set up a transition council, which has been inaugurated and which is working. So nothing best show the fact that he is ready to exit than the setting up of that transition council.
What more do we know practically that is going on as far as the preparations for President Buhari leaving office after a 2-term in office?
Well, at every opportunity he had always said it. He even still said it last week that when he finishes May 29, he will not stay in Abuja. He will not stay in Kaduna, which is near to Abuja. He will stay in Daura, which is very far away, so that people who want to come and trouble him with political issues will think twice before they embark on that journey. He said he wants his peace after May 29, so he will just stay in Daura, at least for the larger part of his requirements. That shows that the president is virtually done and is ready to leave.
So, how then is he? You are his mouthpiece, but basically, anything that we are hearing from you now is as though we are hearing from President Muhammadu Buhari himself. You've done this for 8 years. Give us an understanding of how the president envisioned his exit from office. Don't forget that he was one president that was ushered in so cheerfully by those of his supporters who thought that Nigeria under him will be El Dorado.
Well, your question implies that the expectations were largely unmet, but I wouldn't agree with you. He was ushered in cheerfully. He will still be ushered out.
That's what you infer. That's what you have inferred from my question.
Yes.
If I'm going to ask you, you know me, Mr. Adesina, I will ask pointedly and directly. And we will get to that point just very soon. But I'm asking, how does it, because for as human beings, there are ways and manner in which we hope and we feel that things should go when we are doing some things. Exiting office is going to be another milestone in his life as a leader. And I'm asking basically, because looking back 8 years ago, he had these huge expectations on him. Now, leaving the office, how does he think that it will go? Ceremoniously? How does he envision it? Has he discussed that with you?
Oh, yes, we keep discussing these things, and I know his mind on this. Mr. President feels he has done his level best for the country. There's nobody who does everything perfectly, but he has done his best, and he is handing over peacefully, and he will go out cheerfully.
Okay, so let me begin in looking in more details on because what I wanted to hear from the question I asked in that regard, I wanted to know. I mean, sometimes you want a white wedding, sometimes you don't want a reception, sometimes you want a quiet one, sometimes you want a loud one. I mean, I just wanted to know the manner in which he wanted that exit.
It's not in his hands. It's not in the hands of any exiting president. There are protocols for these things, and the protocols are followed. So it's not in his hands. as long as he has set up that transition council, it's not within his hands again. And they have protocols. Protocols must be followed. When President Jonathan was exiting, the protocols were followed. President Buhari came in. Now that he is also leaving, the protocols will be followed. It's not strictly in the hands of an exiting president.
That's what we want to know. The protocol. What is this protocol?
The protocol is that on May 29, you are at the Eagle Square, and there are already laid out programs which you follow, and you hand over to your successor. And after that, you begin your life in retirement. How that program is carried out is not subject to you. There is a transition council which will even largely be in charge of that program. So you can't say, I don't want this, I don't want it this way, I want it this way. No, it's protocols. There are ceremonials which are not subject to being tampered with. So those ceremonials will be complied with.
So let's look at the last 8 years. What would you say, because you have looked at him closely, you have worked with him closely, and you have seen his lows and his highs. At what point would you describe as the lowest of this president in his 8-year journey?
Well, each time Mr. President hears of killings and abductions, I know how deeply those things affect him. Abduction of pupils, abduction of girls, killing, wanton killings and all that. I know how those things touch him. Those must account for some of the lowest points in his administration.
So what would you describe, if those are his lowest, what would you describe as his highest point?
No, you know, in the life of a country, there will be many high points. Anytime he hears news of people being upright, people following integrity, people doing what he expects them to do, I know how he vibrates towards those things. You know, it stands for probity, integrity, and accountability. So anytime that he hears news of any of his appointees or anybody in government doing those things, I know he particularly likes it.
Is the period in which he was very sick, does the president think that that was a setback for his administration?
It should be, because he lost how many months? He fell sick January 2017. He came back March, went again in April, and didn't come back till August, I think August 19. So about 8 months. That sickness took 8 months of his time in office. Of course, nobody would like that. But what we are glad about is that he came whole, he came sound, he came better than he went.
There is one of the critics of the president, of course, Bishop Kuka, in his Easter message. This is what he said, and he has also recognized that the presidency and President Muhammadu Buhari also recognized that he's being a very critical observer of the time of the president in office. This is what he said about the president. Let me allow you to respond to this quickly, Mr. Adesina. And so he says, as you prepare to return to Daura or Kaduna, I do not know if you feel fulfilled or that you met the tall dreams and goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry, defeating corruption, bringing back our girls, belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody, selling off our presidential fleet and traveling with us, etc.
Yeah, yes, I think Bishop Kuka cooks very bad meals, and they are not appetizing at all. Somebody has said it's even better that he puts off his cassock and becomes a full-time politician. He's rather too partisan. If you look at those things one by one, if you can display them one again, we can take them one by one. those things don't do credit to Father Kuka's intellectual posture. He is somebody that we had always admired for his intellectual bent, but his opinions have been colored by politics. He talked about selling presidential fleet. Was that ever promised? Was that ever promised? You know that in 2015, there were a rush of promises made that even the candidate then did not know about. So how can you start claiming that he promised that? Can he prove anywhere where the president... Okay, one by one, see, the goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry. Now the question is, are we where we were on the issue of banditry? Are we where we were in 2015? The job is not fully done, but are we where we were? If Father Kuka is true to himself and true to his calling as a cleric, he will know that this country is not where it was in terms of banditry as at 2015. Defeating corruption. Which country ever defeats corruption? Which country ever defeats corruption? Even China, where they execute corrupt people, the fact that they keep executing shows you that corruption is not defeated. No country defeats corruption. You can curb it, you can minimize it, but he used the word defeating corruption. I think Father Kuka is rather disappointing in those choice of words. Then bringing back our girls. How many of those girls were taken away in 2014? And how many have been recovered? He should even praise the government for recovering a large number of those girls. Were the girls even spirited away under President Buhari? No, but the girls are Nigerians, and the president did his level best, bringing more than 100 of those girls back. And then belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody. So who does he say the president belongs to now? He needs to make that clear. Selling off our presidential fleet, I addressed that earlier. Let him prove that the president made that promise.
So let's take it from one after the other. So belonging to everyone and belonging to no one statement. But there are a lot of the critics of this government that said this is one of the most nepotistic government in terms of appointment and all that Nigeria has had in recent time. How do you defend that?
No need to defend what you say critics have said. Critics will always be there. And they will criticize because that's their job, there's a pastime.
But what are the facts? What are the facts if you are disputing, for example, what someone like Bishop Kuka has said? So what are the facts that this government wasn't nepotistic in his appointment and in his view of allowing Nigerians to participate in the scheme of things?
The thing about critics is that they hear themselves. They hear themselves only. They don't hear alternate voices. In 2018 or 2019, we came out with a checklist of all appointments made under President Buhari nationwide. And do you know the state that had the highest? Ogun State. I think the second highest state is maybe Imo State. Katsina, where the president comes from, is in number 5 or 6. We came out with that checklist, but people like Father Kuka and other critics don't listen to others. They listen to themselves, and nothing else matters to them.
So, I mean, people will make easy reference to the appointment of those who are in the security, some of the service chiefs and the hierarchy in the security apparatus, those who head different sectors of our security in the country, different agencies, and they will say they have come from a certain region of the country. And this is one major issue that has been drawn and that have been that characterize the criticism on the nepotism that has been ascribed on this government.
Security is something you don't subject to politics. Security is you bring your best foot forward. And look at the echelon of the heads of security agencies since 2015. Would you honestly say they have all been from one part of the country? Who was the chief of naval staff in the first term of this administration? Was it not a man from Cross River State? Who was the Inspector General of Police at that time? It was not a man from Edo State, Solomon Arese. So security is something that you do based on the best and the brightest, because all you want is for your country to be secure. The president usually says, unless you have secured a country or even an organization, you cannot efficiently manage it. So you get the best that can help you secure a country. That's the thing about security. People who begin to subject the headship of security agencies to where does it come from, they don't know what security is all about.
So, okay, now let's look at it. If you say you look at about 10 security agencies in this country, and almost 7 out of that are being headed by people from one region of the country, are you saying there are no capacity in other parts of the country? Just only one region of the country that has capacity. This is the argument and the debate by those who have criticized this government.
You are back to what I've just said.
You probably will need.
You are back to what I've just said. Don't subject security to ethnic balancing. Don't subject security to federal character. In fact, the Constitution that prescribes federal character even gives the president some prerogatives that he can appoint on his own. What the Constitution requires of you is balancing in terms of each state being represented in terms of certain positions. Most of those positions are prescribed. Security is not part of it. A president will always have the prerogative to appoint those he feels can help him secure the country and have the kind of country he desires to have.
Now, let me go that security area. Let me bring something to your mind, Mr. Additional. Between 29th of May 2015 and 29th May 2022, 55,430 people were killed by terrorist groups and criminal gangs operating across the country. In 2021 alone, 3.2 million Nigerians had been displaced from their homes. These are surveys done by a security agency. Now, in the security area, the president has been criticized for failing to adequately address the security challenges facing Nigeria as one of the main pivots of the promises that he made when he was getting into office, particularly the issue of the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast region and the rising cases of banditry. In fact, when the president got into office, things that got worse was issue of banditry, kidnapping, and farmer-elder clashes in other parts of the country. It's just about 50 days to his exit in office. Would you say to Nigerians tonight that he's being able to meet his promises and the number of deaths that we have incurred, or experienced in the last eight years was something that Nigerians could easily pardon for a leader who promised to deal with insecurity?
You have quoted those figures. Do you also know of a report which says that in the past 10 or about 12 years in Nigeria, that 2022 rather, last year, was the year that recorded the least number of deaths in terms of insurgency and insecurity? Are you aware of that report? You are not quoting that report because it doesn't serve your purpose. What serves your purpose is the negative one. But we know that in this country, the figure has been coming down progressively over the years. And it's a fact of history. Nobody can change it.
It's interesting that you know my purpose, Mr. Additional, but you have gotten it so wrong. That is not my purpose. I'm reeling out the lives of people that have been lost. These are not trees. These are not firewood. These are real human beings, Nigerians, who have legitimate right under the Constitution to live their lives, but their lives are being cut short. You are to explain to Nigerians, because your government promised that you're going to deliver. My purpose as a journalist tonight is to ask those questions, to allow you to explain to Nigerians whether or not your government has been able to meet up the expectations of Nigerians, or you are failing your duty. You will need to be able to tell Nigerians whether or not there are successes and there are failures. Tonight, what do you tell Nigerians, Mr. Additional?
Well, when you say your duty as a journalist is what you I have explained. You also forget that you are talking to a journalist. And as a journalist, I know
a former one. A former one, a former journalist. You are an advisor to a government. You can't refer to yourself as a journalist.
So what do I do in that government? Media.
You work for a government. You speak like one. Please go ahead.
Wait for the next 50 days, and you will see where you will see me. You will know that this man remains. You know that this man remains a journalist. Now, when you consider lives that have been lost. No life, ideally, should be lost, not a single one. One life lost is too many. Not one life should be lost. But then, when reports tell you that between 2015 and 2021, so number of lives were lost, and in 2022, the lowest figure came up. It calls for something positive. You don't ignore it. You don't ignore it. You have to take the whole thing together. Not just take what you want to highlight and leave the positive. No.
I mean, I would have loved to go deeper and deeper because this, I mean, it's an emotional one for a lot of people. Some of them who are their family members kidnapped and killed. But the question I'm asking you tonight is to tell Nigerians the money that has been invested in the last 8 years, the effort has been made, vis-a-vis the promises that have been made. Nobody is taking you up on what you did not say you will do. We're taking you up on what you promised Nigerians that you will do. And this, you are exiting office. You need to be accountable to Nigerians that you are leaving Nigerians better than you left it. Have you?
Far better. Far better. And I said it at the beginning. In 2015, we knew where Nigeria was. Minimum of 17 local governments in this country were under the control of insurgents. Talking of control, I mean they were sitting in Emma's palaces. They were sitting in the seat of the local government chairman. NYSC could not do orientation. They could not even post people to those places. Is that what happens today? No, the Emmas are back in their palaces. Local government chairmen are back in their offices. NYSC orientation is happening in those states, and coppers are being posted to those states. Are you now telling me that there has been no improvement? No, let's be factual. As they say, let's cut the government some slack. Please.
I mean, I love to touch on a lot of places, but if you dwell on the security areas and the fact that we have, only that you just want an alternative figures, but these are official figures that I've read out to you. But Mr. Additional, you touch on, because when you were making reference to Bishop Kuka, you made reference to when he talked about the presidential fleet. Your colleague, Mr. Garba Shehu, this is what he said. In 2016, he says that Mr. Garba Shehu said, when the president campaigned to be president, the then APC candidate Muhammadu Buhari, if you recall, promised to look at the presidential air fleet with a view to cutting down on waste. His directive to a government committee on this assignment is that he'd like to see a compact and reliable aircraft for the safe airlift of the president, the vice president, and other government officials that go on special mission. This exercise is by no means complete. And look at what we are experiencing. Under the Buhari regime, the presidential air fleet has so far cost taxpayer a total of over 40 billion naira, contrary to the promise that had been made before 2015, that there will be a cut in cost. So when Bishop Kuka made that mention, you dismissed it, but these are the facts. These are the words of your colleague Garba Shehu on this matter.
That statement you read out does not in any way countermand what I have said. He said the president promised to look at the fleet. Where was the promise to sell off all the planes? Was it in that statement? What Nigeria?
Your party had said.
Wait,
Mr. Additional, your party has said it. And if we dwell into that, we might dig deeper. Just for a moment, let me put it in perspective. Your party has criticized the past government before you got into office. This was before 2015, before you got into office, and your party made a promise. In fact, I had interviews on this matter when you said that the presidential fleet was too much, and you guys were going to cut down on it. So the question is that
That
are you
statement
keeping
you
up
just
to that
read.
promise?
I'm sure you will let me talk. When you talk, I don't interrupt you. That statement,
Go ahead, please.
That statement you read said President Buhari promised to look at the presidential fleet, which he did. Helicopters were given to the Air Force. I think 2 or 3 jets were sold off. That is looking at it and cutting off excesses. What some people expect is for the president to sell off all the jets and then he starts flying Nigeria Airways, if Nigeria Airways still exists. We know that British leaders don't fly private jets, they fly the British Airways and all that. There are countries like that. If that is what you want for a country, no problem. President Buhari is not the profligate type. If what the country has decided is that the president must travel in commercial flights, he will gladly do. But the promise was, we will look at the fleet. And it was looked at. I know of 2 or 3 helicopters that were given to the Air Force. I know of about 2 jets that were sold. So, was that promise not kept? We will look at it. And it was done.
Mr. Adesina, because we're out of time now, but when you said that you are leaving Nigeria better than you left it. So, in terms of the economy, because a lot of people will not forgive me if I don't touch on the issue of the economy. And so I'd like you to put it in perspective what you mean by this. Because the government has also been criticized by economists to say that it's handled the economy badly, particularly the issue of the high rate of inflation, unemployment rate, and the slow economic growth. Mr. Adesina, the figures before your government got into office, perhaps if I remind you, before you got into office, inflation rate is about 9%. It's way over 20% right now. Unemployment rate, 8.19%. It's over 33% right now. Debt profile in the country was about 12 trillion. You know the figures. So when you say to Nigerians tonight that you are leaving Nigeria better than you left it, would you like to adjust that statement or you stand on that?
No, I won't, because this government made a mono-product economy, an economy that depended solely on oil. So that anytime oil prices fell, oil prices crashed in the international market, Nigeria crashes with it. But today is no longer so. Oil contributes less than 10% of our GDP today. Oil that used to contribute about 90%. For the first time in our history, Nigeria has a diversified economy. Diversification had long been a promise. Today, it is no longer a promise. It is reality. It is reality. Oil contributes less than 10% to the GDP of this country today. I think people must credit the Buhari administration for that, because you now have Agric, you now have ICT, you now have manufacturing to an extent. You have so many things contributing to Nigeria's GDP, apart from oil. To the extent that oil, I say again, contributes less than 10% to our GDP. The economy has been diversified, first time in over 60 years. That is something nobody would deny the Buhari administration.
Well, indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Femi Adesina, for your time. Your colleague, Garba Ashewu, has said that in a few months' time, that Nigerians will miss President Buhari. We hope to see how that pans out. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a break, everyone, and when we return, we'll be getting a perspective from a very senior lawmaker of the PDP. Will be giving us insight into the National Assembly politics and the aftermath of the 2023 election and what has become a major debate in the land. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. so much, everyone. We'll be shifting focus now to discuss the intricacies of the National Assembly leadership politics and how it may impact the overall political landscape in Nigeria. We'll also be assessing the conduct of the 2023 election so far and looking at the successes and the challenges faced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and other stakeholders in ensuring free and fair and credible elections. I have joining me a very experienced federal lawmaker, Senator Matt Oabonwa, who, well, he was in that election but didn't turn out his way very much. Like, you ran against Senator Ojukalu in Abia State. That didn't go your way this time around, and he shut it out. Shut you out from going into the National Assembly. But in your assessments of the 2023 election, I had a guest on the program yesterday, Professor Ishesage, who said this election of 2023 is perhaps the best election in Nigeria's history. What's your own view?
I wouldn't know from what perspective that he's judging this to be the best. Personally, build up to 2023. Yes, at that point, it could have been right for somebody to say, like, this election, if followed the way it's been advertised, then would be the best. And I had that belief, too, that actually we're going to get it right, that it was going to be the best, having contested elections several times, judging from the campaign from INEC, the registration, the advertisement, the sensitization, asking people to register, pick up your PVC, the votes will count this time, you go to the polls, just cast your, you'll be captured by beavers, cast your vote, at the end of the day the results will be uploaded, then the results will be pasted on the board, on the wall for people to expect. Those expectations were there, and that was why on the 25th, I want to tell you that really, people came out without being coerced. We've never seen that kind of move and motivation, enthusiasm, the passion. But unfortunately, those were dashed.
How?
And that was because... So
what's your own assessment? So it has been said that beavers were supposed to be at the heart. And did beavers work from your own assessment?
Definitely. Beavers worked as far as it was meant for accreditation. But unfortunately, beavers was not referred to in terms of collation. Because we are told that the collation, which is supposed to be right, beavers is accreditation. Voting, for you to turn out a result, it must be number accredited number of votes, and if possible, where you have cancellations. That's what will give you the number of vote cast, and then you divide it, or depend on what each person gets as far as that. But unfortunately, beavers was bypassed in collation. Two, if I speak from my own perspective...
is beavers supposed to be part of collation?
No. Well, yes. No, because
beavers is a voting and accreditation device.
Definitely.
Not for collation.
Yes, but you cannot... That's what I'm saying. You must make reference to beavers. Because in collation, what collation result is how many people were accredited, how many votes cast, were there cancellations or void votes. Then you calculate and come out to the total number of votes cast, then based on each political party. But unfortunately, what I'm saying, at the point of collation, where you should make reference to beavers, then beavers was bypassed. You didn't refer to beavers. Where somebody will come, let me give you a clear example. Beavers recorded 10,000 people accredited. Then somebody is having 20,000 votes. How did you get that? That means beavers, you did not use beavers.
That's
in the
an overvoting.
Overvoting.
But the electoral law frowns at that, and it says specifically on what to do. Yes. Did that happen in your own case?
No, in my own case, two things really happened. Really, in my own case. One was that INEC told us that accreditation will start by 8. In my case, in my constituency, that's Abia North, accreditation voting did not start till about 2-3 p.m. when election voting is supposed to have ended at 2:30 p.m. by right. Then that apart, also after that, collation should be at the RA, that is the ward levels. That was not done. You came to the what do you call it, the local government level. But that is even one. The second aspect was that about 100 units election was still on to be conducted in those places. When it got late, INEC on their own decided that those elections would not hold, that they would suspend the election to the next day. And the next day, they said no, because the people were not well informed and mobilized, that the election would not be on Monday, because the election was on 25th. 26th, there was an announcement that there was going to be a supplementary election. INEC on its own also came up and said, no, this supplementary election will not be on Monday. People were getting ready. INEC was ready, deploying materials and people, and result was announced. How can you reconcile that?
Have you made an official complaint about that?
First, let me tell you, the announcement was made by INEC. The record, the video, the tape is there. It's not that I made a complaint, INEC. But when that happened, they didn't keep to their word. I wrote a petition hoping that INEC will use the 7-day
window for
review. We only had an acknowledgement. Nothing happened. 1 day, 2 days, 7 days. As I speak, nothing has happened. And we have no option than to go to tribunal.
I saw you at the tribunal.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You're challenging the outcome of the election.
Definitely.
Do you think that you won that election?
Well, I wouldn't want to use the word I won, because it was very clear that I campaigned vigorously. It was very clear that in my constituency, people wanted me back in the Senate. It was very clear that even the party, as far as my constituency was concerned and state, people didn't want to hear about the person or about the party. It's very clear. But where I'm not claiming was that I thought that they would have allowed that election to be,
so would you say that there was no election in your senatorial district?
No. I said election started late.
But it did not reflect
most constituencies. So I'll give you an example like Ohafia.
So in summary,
yes,
the election outcome did not reflect the conduct.
Completely, it's not a reflection of the conduct, and the election was not followed to its conclusion.
You feel you were rigged out?
I give you example.
That's what you feel. Do you feel you were rigged out?
Well, I don't like complaining, but I like putting things in the right perspective.
Because, your opponent will say, these are the words of a loser. Someone who lost election. If he had gone in your favor, you probably wouldn't have been saying this.
That's why I've been contesting election. People will tell you that. Yeah. That's why I don't want to come complaining, but I want to put things right in the right perspective. And INEC will definitely confirm what I'm saying.
You have your day at the tribunal.
Yes, let me give you an example.
And you have assurance, you have evidence that...
Oh, yes, including INEC. INEC will be part of the witness, because they did. I give you a place like Ohafia. We have Ohafia. You know how populated Ohafia is. Yeah. The highest and the biggest ward in Abia State is Isiama ward, which had 47 units. Not one vote, no election. You had Okamu, which had also in Ohafia 27 units, no election. You have Aboji with 10 units, no election. You come to my own ward, Ward 3 in Arochukwu, 11 units, no election. You go to Isukwato, that is about, we've articulated all that, and INEC is aware, about 100 units. And the worst case is that the number of people registered in those units far outnumber the total number of votes cast so far. So it's not even talking about margin of lead, because if it was between two persons, you begin to talk about margin of lead. This one is that the election was not completed. You started it and you did not complete the election, only for you to announce result. I'm surprised, and up to now, as I speak, I cannot reconcile it at all. And like I said, do you know that 25th of February, people came out on their own? In most of the units, there were no security agents, and there was no issues. No killing, no fracas, no violence, no snatching of ballot boxes. People came out on their own, and they wanted to exercise their franchise.
I mean, yours is an isolated case.
Well,
would you now say that because of that isolated case, the whole election is not free and fair?
No. For me,
the conduct is not as... the way the professor and the senior advocate described it, that this is perhaps the best. And he gave the instances of 2007, 2003, 1999, and the rest, and how we have developed up to this point. So would you say because of that scenario, the whole of 2023 election is not judged as good as it should be?
I can't say that, because I cannot tell you what happened elsewhere. My perspective, my statement is based on my experience.
Do you think, Senator, that there is an improvement?
Pardon?
Do you think that there is an improvement in any case in this election?
They are supposed to, by right, they are supposed to have been an improvement.
But you don't see
because one, the Electoral Act of 2022 for me was a great improvement, and if we had followed it to the letters, definitely to have been. Then the Beavers case, the arrangement, the registration, the collection of what do you call it, PVCs.
Yeah.
For me, they were all improvement. The only thing I see that, from my own perspective, the conduct, the implementation was not followed right, and I don't know what happened. So I don't know what may have happened in other places.
But from my own
point, I cannot say I judge it to be right.
You're a national leader in the People's Democratic Party, and so your party lost the election too.
Yes.
Did you see that coming? Did you think that your party could have lost to Bola Tinubu of the APC?
Yeah, no, well, I wouldn't know whether Tinubu or not, but I saw the loss coming. Because you couldn't go to war depleted, divided. It was very clear that the way PDP was going, we were not really prepared to win that presidential election. I give you an example. I was part of the, what you call the 36 or 37 wise men who were involved in zoning the presidential position. And at that point, the first day, it ended in a fiasco. Because we insisted that we must stick to the party constitution. We talked about zoning and rotation. Then some people came with an idea that, look, this is belated because you had allowed every person to collect nomination form. And if you come to talk about zoning at this time, then definitely it will go to scatter the party. So on that basis, we saw, well, what is important was to keep the party together. Then we agreed that, okay, let's leave it open. Let's see where the presidency will come from. Which was what, I had told people that when people talk that IU made a statement that if the president comes from a certain place, he was going to resign. IU did not volunteer that statement. It was people like you, based on the outcome of our decision. They now went to the chairman to say, look, now that your party had thrown this thing open, what if the president comes from your own region? What will you do? He said, no, if the president comes from my region, definitely I will step aside. Then luckily, the president came from your region. Now to step aside became a problem. Now you are the father of the party. And for a father of the party, your best interest, your first decision and option will be anything that will bring peace and harmony to lead to the victory of the party. But you refused. You stood and said you are not going to leave. Even when people say, look, let the other zone bring the chairman. I didn't see anything difficult about that. So what I'm trying to say that if then 5 governors came together and insisted that this must happen, then you as the father saying that you are not going to leave. So it was already a recipe for it
was an own goal.
Definitely. From that point, if you're a politician, a political strategist, a politician that had been an election contesting politician like Senator Mao Huabunwa, you will know that from onset.
So Atiku Abubakar has been in this game for over 30 years.
That's why I'm surprised. I'm shocked.
So you think he didn't see this coming?
I'm surprised. Unfortunately, I've not spoken to him, but I expected those who came to me to say, look. I said, look, tell the presidential candidate, my Oga, ask him, Oga, do you really want to win an election or you want to be a presidential candidate? So if you want to win this election, it's simple. You should step outside so that we can go into this election
because
united.
You are from the south and you are probably supporting...
No. What I'm saying, maybe you didn't hear,
No, I understand you. I'm saying that when you told your colleagues who came to you, they might be thinking that you're saying this because, or you said that because you are a southerner.
Maybe they made mistake, or maybe they didn't know my antecedent and my history.
Let me take you to the National Assembly.
Yes.
Your opponent in the senatorial election is gunning to be a Senate president.
Well, I read it on the pages of the paper.
What do you think about that?
Well, let me speak as a parliamentarian. I've been privileged to be in the House of Reps. I was a leader in the House of Reps. I was privileged to have been a leader in the ECOWAS Parliament, and I'm also been privileged to be in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And as far as I'm concerned, the leadership, especially the presiding officer or the presiding officers, or presiding officer is, somebody will say is first among equals, somebody will say is
one among equal.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's promos inter pares, first amongst equal. So first, what is important is character. You talk about the character, you talk about the integrity, you talk about the capacity and the ability of this person. Don't forget that as a leader, you're no more, he's just not going to be the leader of the Senate. He's going to be the chairman of the National Assembly. He's also now going by protocol, the number 3 man in the country. So it's like you're presenting your best. So under that condition, in that circumstance, you must make sure that you present the best amongst all. And that is why if you look at when the rule talks about ranking, it's not ranking by only number of
times you've
been there. It's also an opportunity for members to have assessed you and known you. Because that's why some of us at times will cry about the turnover. But the point is that you must be a man of integrity, a man of character, and to be able to lead your person. When I see people make mockery of the parliament of zoning, say you zone to me, I mean, some of us hide our faces in shame. You cannot say zone to you. Not even zoning as per regional is because of the level of our democracy. At a point, nothing about zone. It gets to a point
but at this point that we are in our country today, a Southwest president, a Northeast vice president, the number 3 man, where do you think in the balance of power equation and that debate, where do you think the Senate president should come from?
No, there are so many things we put into consideration when we talk about zoning. It's not only state or region. Like, we do apologies. At the beginning of this electioneering campaign, Shetima is somebody I know and can vouch for his capacity and ability. But when it was Muslim ticket, at that time, as a Christian, I spoke against it. I personally, not because the candidates were not capable or qualified.
But Senator,
but I said, but now
for
we've gone beyond that.
What do you think is fair?
No, what is fair, first and foremost, because you can no more teleguide the senators as it were.
So
you remember what happened? Yeah, you remember what happened in 2015?
Yeah.
You remember also what happened to us in 1999?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we were there, Buhari was removed.
Salisu
Buhari because of this, what do you call it? Toronto gate. Then they went back to the president. Then Wali was the liaison officer. So they asked the House to wait for the villa to decide who was going to be the the speaker. Before they came, we all met as a people in consonance with the rules of the House and voted Galinaba. And you could see that Galinaba kept the executive on check until we left. We are not saying you must bring somebody. This is not time for bring people who will deal. It's not time for deal men. It's not time for deal men.
So let me ask you.
It's time to bring people who are conversant with the tenets of democracy and parliament, who can keep the executive on check. Don't forget that our functions are complementary. Our functions are independent but complementary. Are you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
What I mean, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, they're independent but complementary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but not to the extent that you become a rubber stamp. You must get somebody.
Is that what we have been saying in the past?
Well, I'm not saying, but you saw that outside the Senate, outside the assembly, like you've told, I saw you in your last program, what the people say is that the night assembly was a rubber stamp assembly. Not Mao Huabun was saying it,
Senator,
because I'm not in a position to assess.
Senator,
yes.
If the Senate president comes, your opponent becomes the Senate president, how would you feel?
I would feel terrible.
Why?
Because I don't believe that he's competent to represent.
That's a two-time governor.
To represent, represent the Senate. Number two, as it concerns me, he has not won the election. He's not yet. So I wouldn't want a Senate president that will be removed tomorrow. He has so many things, so many baggages with him. He has, he's still has a case in court, EFCC case, that is still standing. Don't forget that he was convicted. He went on technical grounds. They didn't discharge him. No, he wasn't discharged.
But he came out of...
That's what I'm saying. But they said that the case, I'm even using the to that, I'm wondering why EFCC is still holding back on that prosecution as we speak. That is number one. Number two, like I said, I ran an election with him, and he's aware that he hasn't really won that election, or he didn't win that election.
Well, that will be left to the court, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. That I'm from my own person. I'm not court. I'm speaking. You asked me a question, so I'm saying from that point, and also from the legislative perspective, I think that if you really want this position to go to the southeast, and you want somebody that will represent Nigeria at the world level, you need somebody with some high level of...
Let me get your final thought. I mean, if you... I mean, even if the court consider you and reviews this election, make a judicial review of this of your election, and sees that you won the election, that is if that happens in the court. You will still be in the opposition. And so the onus is on the APC to decide how they want to handle that. But just in about 30 seconds, how do you think that the APC, whose onus is on them to produce the presiding officer, should handle this case?
No, first and foremost, I've always been an advocate of independent National Assembly. Allow the Senate to act in accordance with the rules. The process is being prescribed. Allow them to get, so that you get out. Listen, you remember what happened in 1999 with Chuba Kadibo? You know, the executive continued to delegate the Senate.
Until we had
not Ken Namani. They brought from Ivan Enwerem, we now went to, eventually, it came to Chuba. They still chased Chuba, and him came. Pius Ayim came. That was Ayim ended. So when Ayim saw the fire, he withdrew and went back to his people, knowing that you are a representative of the senators. So you need the senators to protect you, not the villain. So any Senate president that is not a product of the senators, of the legislature, or even speaker will not stay. You remember,
but the party can guide.
2015.
But the party can guide,
the party definitely.
Because the onus is on the party.
The party can guide. And that's
But what do you think that the APC should do from your experience?
Should guide the Senate and the legislature. First and foremost, allow them, meet with them, allow them to follow the process and procedure as prescribed by the...
You think Bola Tinubu and...
Don't also forget that this thing does not end with the presiding officers. There are offices enough for all the zones. See, you have, let me give you, if you have the Senate president from one zone, you have the deputy Senate president from another zone, you have the leader of the House from another zone, you have the whip from another zone, you have the deputy leader, then you have the deputy whip, which covers the 6 geopolitical zones. So no zone will go without something. But the point is that you should not give out to zones to the detriment of capacity, character, ability. You cannot do
Senator,
that, because that would be a disgrace both to the Senate and to the legislature, and indeed the country.
Do you see Bola Tinubu playing a major role because of his experience and that of and Kashim?
I expect them, because they are both senators. I expect them to know what the rules stipulate.
You think this might be more delicate and
especially Shetima. Tinubu, maybe I don't know what happened at the time. You know, their time was during the time they had restrictions, what to do and what not to do. It was not a full blown legislature. But Shetima left and played a role in full legislature, where you had
full complement
of legislature, and he played a role. So he should be able to guide the party. And luckily for us too, the party chairman, we were together in the Senate. I mean, the national chairman of APC. One of the deputies, Abu Kyari, also, I think, I don't expect them to have, I expect them to.
A lot of people have thought that this National Assembly will be more slippery 70% are not returning. About 30% are returning.
That is.
In the House of Reps, similar thing is happening.
It's unfortunate.
So they say it might be more slippery than we have seen ever.
Well, I hope there wouldn't be. With the slippery would not be based on banana peels.
Thank you so much, Senator Ma Oabunwa. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it. We'll take a break, everyone. We're looking at the internal workings of the APC, how APC hopes to handle this issue of zoning, and going forward, where this will be tilting to. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. So we started the conversation around the National Assembly politics and the issue of the leadership and how these will pan out. But in the APC itself, there's been an ongoing conversation on how the party is going to be able to see this through. At the end of the day, it comes down to how the lawmakers are able to handle things. I have joining me now a member of the APC, Ms. Adamu Garba. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I see all your social media engagement. It does look like you and your friends on social media are not relenting. I understand that you were actually expelled from the university. Is that true?
That's true. That's absolutely true.
You were expelled?
True. Yes, I was actually.
Really?
I was.
For what offense?
Yeah, it was a rally. I think a protest that took place. I wasn't around even in the university then, but it has a lot of things to do with so many of my supporters. So the school decided to say me, somebody like me, especially with the political environment as at then. It was a state university founded by an opposition member then, Konkoso, Rabi Musa Konkoso, and then you had a governor who came from the opposition, Malam Shekarau, and they felt like it is Konkoso's boys in the university, you know, that are doing these things, and the politics...
That's how you were expelled?
That's why I was expelled.
So your critics were very right, your opponent on the...
Yeah, they are right, but it was completely illegal. It has no any basis. It is just...
But the fact is you were expelled.
I was actually,
okay,
yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, that's not the subject of conversation.
Yeah.
I was just following and seeing what is happening. So, generally, what is happening within your party? The onus is on your party to decide how you want things to go in terms of the National Assembly leadership politics. What are you hearing at the moment?
Yeah, frankly, you know, a lot of permutations is ongoing. There are some proponents of zoning that the party should zone to the south. Some are saying the party should zone to the north. Somebody like me, I'm insisting that the party should zone the Senate presidency to the northwest, you know.
Because you are from Kano?
Not really. I'm from Adamawa State. I'm not even from the northeast. But when you are trying to reward political offices or you try to organize a government that should function effectively, you need to control your zone of influence, especially we that we are just coming in, like returning for the second time APC in power. It is very important for us to consolidate our basis against 2027. Why we voted for Asiwaju overwhelmingly and we trusted him is because of the transformation stride he recorded in Lagos. And we want unceasing transformation to happen for 8 years, not just 4 years. And a situation whereby we don't consolidate our basis very well and organize the government and pay compensation to the people that contributed immensely to our success, then it's not really going to work well for us. And that is why I think Northwest is the best zone, and even Northwest Kano, because Kano has been one of the pillars of APC from the beginning.
Why Kano? You have only one senator from Kano.
Yes, Senator Barrow Jibrin, that's the person I'm going for. That's the person I'm actually rooting for, because for him to defeat Konkwasiya Tsunami from Kano, it means that we need somebody to be able to neutralize this Konkwasiya in the Northwest. And if he is able to defeat Konkwasiya at the height of their popularity, then this is the main person that we need at that position.
All right, let me. I mean, so I'll ask you the simple question of fairness.
Yeah.
So perhaps if a producer can bring back the diagram on the chart on how things are presently in terms of where the president-elect is from, the vice president-elect, and you look at it, Southwest, that's where the president-elect is from. The Northeast, that's where the vice president-elect is from. Where would so you are saying, invariably, so if you have that diagram coming downward, a Northeast vice president-elect, so you are saying a Northwest Senate president, does that look fair? in the issue of balance of power.
Completely fair. You see, in politics, it is about numbers, and numbers, they don't lie. They are very real, and you have to follow the numbers if you truly want to sustain the numbers.
But this is not politics.
It is actually politics.
This is issue of national development and governance issue.
Yes, it's a national development and governance issue.
So the Constitution has prescribed on how the nation should be able to handle in the section, in the chapter 2 of the Constitution. It talked about how things should be fairly distributed equitably to every part of the country, and every part of the country should feel among in the scheme of things.
Yes, I like the last the last visitor you had. He discussed extensively about competence, character, and credibility of the candidate. Among all those that presented themselves to aspire for that office, the most competent among them is the same Barrow Jibrin. Among all of them, he is the highest ranking Senate among all of them. So when you compare these things, you will see clearly that the odds favors him, coupled with the fact that the numbers came from there. And if you are talking about equitable distribution or fairness, these are numbers, and we have to be real in our selections. We cannot be able to go and incentivize the zone that give us far less, in fact, failed us completely. So
you're talking about, you're getting my point wrong, Mr. Garba. And the point I'm asking, you are talking about politics and your party, the equation in your party. We're talking about the issue of national unity in this country. And if you bring back that diagram again, for those who think the Southwest, the Northeast, does it make sense in terms of equitable distribution of offices and power and balance of power, that the number they might refer to as the number 3 will be from the Northwest? Does it make sense? Actually, Southwest, South, North, and you go to the North again.
Actually, it makes perfect sense. You see, this equitable distribution we have been talking about has not worked over time. Why? Because we try to compensate people that are not interested, and a situation whereby you don't want to come to the center. If you are given opportunity, most of the times you tend to corrupt these things. And if you are talking about equitable distribution, when you run down the history of our political permutation in this country from 1999, in 1999 to 2007, the president of the country, number 1, was from the Southwest, and he successfully ruled. Then in 2015, when you take out the 8 years preceding Yaradua and Jonathan, in 2015 we have number 2 man from the same Southwest and number 1 man from the Northwest. So, and now we even have another again, Southwest, with number 1 man for additional 8 years by the special grace of God. So when you look at these things, some of them are not like by orchestration. It is just by happenstance. And in politics, there's something that is called consequence of partnership. And these are the kind of consequences of partnership the North and the South came together, especially the Southwest, to produce the new government. So it's not binding on us to say we are going to follow the PDP template. We have also our template because there are peculiarity that brought us together.
So even if your template offends the sensibility of the nation,
actually,
as it is right
actually
now,
it doesn't offend any sensibility. You see.
So let's look at it from this.
And when you look at
manner.
politics, yes,
so why does your party think, for example, that if and this is the template you have in PDP and some other political party, the president at the moment of your party is from the President Muhammad Buhari.
Yes.
Is from the Northwest.
Yes.
And you decided that you were going to zone, and the governors of your party said it's better to zone the next presidential ticket
to the south. Correct.
So why that reasoning? And if you're now thinking that now for you it's okay to take a Southwest president-elect, a vice president-elect from the Northeast, and you're going to the North.
No.
A right-thinking narrative for those who are on the other side would think that, look, it has to go to the South.
No.
Either South side or Southeast or South. I mean, not Southwest, of course, because the president-elect from the Southwest.
Our realities are different. Now, the vice president-elect is from the Southwest. That's what it is. So number 2 is from the Southwest, who is exiting for number 1 from the Southwest. So our peculiarities are different, and don't forget.
You're looking at the template of now, not the one that is outgoing.
That's why that template that they are trying to distribute should not stand. Why? Because it is very critical for us to look at our peculiarity. Don't forget, even though we have number 2 man as the vice president, we still have number 4 man from the same state as the Speaker of the Representative. Why? Because of our peculiarities, because of our realities. And when you come to National Assembly politics, it's about zone. It has nothing to do with national spread. You have to break the knot into the 3 zones that they are and try to appreciate, compensate, and empower the most competent among them who represent the zone of influence.
Apologies to cut in. Are you aware of some of the strain that the election has cost the unity of this country?
Of course, I'm very, very much aware.
Ethnic and religious.
Yeah, very, very much aware.
And so you are very strong. You are defending and debating that the number 3, after you have a Northeast Vice President-elect, that Senate President should go to the the Northwest.
Yes.
Now the question is that, so the 2 men that we understand and know confirmed now are both Muslims.
Yes.
Would you also say that the Senate President, the number 3, should be a Muslim too?
You see, when you try to bring politics of religion into the National Assembly, you are not going to get it right. This is zonal issue. The Northwest brought 2.7 million votes for us to come back to power. We need to understand this. And the Northwest decided to throw their man away, who is Atiku Abubakar, in honor of promise and in honor of partnership. And this is the consequence of partnership, and the partnership produced this outcome. So a situation whereby we are going into National Assembly politics, we should pay attention to the zones as opposed to talking about religion. It is the zone that produced the highest amount of vote that we need to compensate. You can't carry the Senate presidency and give to the zone that gave you 1.5% of the total vote that produced, as against the zone that gave you 30% of the total vote, which is the Northwest. So these are just peculiarities, these are numbers. They might be unfair to some people, but they are our realities. They are the reflection of our realities. They are what we are going to hold on to
of your own
our
party.
subsequent election.
Of your own party.
Yes.
And your party is a party of Nigeria.
Of course.
And that party may not be what you're saying may not be reflecting the sensibility of Nigeria as a nation.
All of this, the Labour Party participated, right? You have PDP participated. They have their senators, Labour Party have their senators, SDP have their senators. You know, I think another party again has their senators, and then we now have APC. Some of them won, some of them lost. And when you participate in election, when you win, it is natural that you should do everything to consolidate your hold onto your position first and foremost. Then the others that lost also should be magnanimous to understand that they participated and lost. Should it be that maybe one of the parties won, maybe it may go in their favor that way. So we should look into these things. These are political realities. A situation whereby we are going to risk our 2027 plan, jettisoning the Northwest that has done everything possible to maintain APC held on to power, number 1. And number 2, that produced the most competent senator among all the aspirants. You can't compare all the aspirants. You can't compare all the other ones that declared Ojus or Kalu or Akpabio with Senator Barrow Jibrin. This man has had several committees, organized a lot of work in the National Assembly, especially around appropriation committee, that saw to the implementation of most of the programs of this government. He is the most competent, he's the most organized, he has been there, he's the 4th-time senator, he is the highest ranking member of the National Assembly currently of the Senate. Why are we keeping competency as opposed to other primordial interests that might not add up anything to our 2027?
So other zones don't have competent people?
As the last speaker said, you have many offices that are distributed. You have about 6 principal offices that all zones are going to benefit from it. So that's what it is. So it should go as simple as that. Other offices, they can go for deputies. We have Speaker of House of Representatives, can go to the Southeast. You also have other principal offices, Deputy Senate President, Chief Whip, the Senate Leader, downward. You can distribute these things as much as possible. But we have to empower someone from Kano to be able to neutralize the Kwankwasia influence in Kano in our favor for 2027. It is very important for us to reflect our political realities. Yes, it is a party issue. Yes, it is a PC issue. But these are our realities, and we have to cement that.
It's interesting. A lot of people, they might be itching and about what you've said tonight, and they will be definitely may not agree with what you said. Well, let's close this conversation around. There is a renewed agitation against the mandate of your presidential candidate. I'm very sure there's something about Uber facts and something that have just been released about some issues, some papers and some issues that in fact have been taken to court right now. How did you see that coming up? How does that mean to you that there is a continued agitation about the competency and the character of your presidential candidate?
Our presidential candidate or maybe President-elect, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's actually the most competent among all of them, and his character is super excellent, and we look forward to his giant stride transformation that he will do to Nigeria in the next 8 years by the special grace of God. And what Ubafak did, I'm a tech person, and I do a lot of things around tech, especially when you come to social media. I even build a social media app, so I understand the algorithm. These guys have about 13 million followers. For the past 3 months, they hardly have any engagement that is more than 20,000 on their pages. So the only way to get engagement is to look for a group of people that are ready for your kind of narrative so that they can get engagement, so that they can come alive. So they decided to reincarnate a dead case, a stale case, target Nigerian audience so that they can get the retweet, the likes, and the audience they have. As at the time I'm coming here, they have about 12 million views. Success for them. And in fact, it's not even enough. They have to run another clarification again just to sustain the engagement and come alive. So they just use the dumb obedient to be able to get engagement.
Well, that word might be very, very harsh. Please, I'd like to use. Please, I wouldn't like you to call anybody dumb, even if you don't agree with their perspective to things. And there's been a whole lot of these clash that we have seen over time for those who feel that maybe the mandate was not legitimate and their party have gone to court to challenge it. And so I asked a question the other day to someone else, and I probably will ask you also, why is that agitation so enormous? Have you seen any kind of opposition, or even when an election is being decided in this kind of manner and magnitude?
You see, Nigeria's election has never been this fairest and fairest. It is freest and fairest ever, because it deployed technology, and we believers in technology, we understood that. But again, for the beauty of democracy to be enthroned, you need such kind of agitation, provided they are not toxic. It's the toxicity that we are complaining. But don't forget, our current president always argue his cases up to Supreme Courts. Always argue his cases up to Supreme Court. So it's a tradition in APC that you must contest what you don't agree. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and so many agitations similar to this case through the normal procedure, through the court proceedings, have passed a lot of issues up to Supreme Court. If you could recall what happened with Adams Oshomole's election, or what happened in Ekiti, these are cases that went up to Supreme Court to recover. So we believe in this kind of thing, provided it followed through norms, democracy, procedure, according to the law. Not toxic agitations that don't make sense. The fact that they went to court is fine by us. We don't have any problem. And we have retinue of sons, professionals, that are going to defend these things. After all, so many of the sons are coming out to say they don't even have a case.
So my question really is, in the manner in which, if, for example, you have passed and you emerge as the school declare you as a best student, graduating student, and there's not been any major kind of opposition to anybody who has been so declared. But this time around, there's been so much of agitation against the person who has been declared as the best graduating student. Don't you think that something is wrong?
Actually,
there is an aura of unusual climate over shrouding that mandate. That's the question I'm asking you. Why is it so much different that this agitation that we're seeing and the mandate of your party after this election so intense?
You see, so many people invested emotions in election. And in election, emotions doesn't work. What works usually is the outcomes. You are able to participate, you are able to convince people, and you are able to get votes. And that's what our party did. And I want to remind you again that even in 2019, when we won the election, Atiku Abubakar, the PDP, went to the court, up to Supreme Courts. And that's where the case was thrown out. So in Nigeria's history, we have never had a period where court cases or issues like this does not come. The toxicity as a result of the emotional investment done by some people is what is affecting the polity that we think it is wrong. But the legal proceedings they are undertaking is okay. Me, I advise them to withdraw because they don't have a case. But if they insist that they must go to the case, to the court, it's open to them. But what I'm saying is that the emotional investment need to be toned down, because in elections, there are winners and there are losers, and the fact that they have lost, they should take their loss in good faith and plan for next time.
Okay. They said they have not lost rightly so. We'll see how that plays out in the court. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Adamu Garba, as a member of the APC. That's our show for today, everyone. And thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye, everyone.